Welcome to the Training Portal podcast, where we delve into the heart of growth and transformation, both personal and professional. I'm your host, Melissa Mostert, and every fortnight, I'll be sharing a meaningful conversation over coffee with industry leaders, innovators, and changemakers who are helping to shape the future of South Africa. In each episode, we'll uncover stories of passion and impact, stories that inspire and challenge us to think differently about development, innovation, and community upliftment. The Training Portal podcast is your source of knowledge and insight, guiding you through the ever-evolving landscape of development in South Africa. Welcome back to the Training Portal podcast. Today we're joined by someone whose journey in leadership and workforce development is both fascinating and impactful, Kobus Visagie. With a background spanning diverse industries and roles, Kobus has cultivated a wealth of knowledge in empowering people and driving performance. From his early career experiences to his significant contributions at the Waitrose Foundation, Kobus has honed his understanding of leadership and its real-world applications. Today, he's making waves with IDS Africa, where the focus isn't just on training, but on enhancing working performance and creating real value for businesses. In this episode, we'll explore Kobus's journey, the lessons he's learned about leadership, and how IDS Africa is shaping the future of workforce performance across South Africa. Get ready for an inspiring conversation packed with insights and practical advice. Kobus, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. It is an absolute joy to have you with us today.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure.
So I want us to start at the very beginning of Kobus's life journey. Tell me more about your background. Where did you come from? What did you study?
I always am very fortunate that I grew up in the Karoo, small little town called Fraserburg, on a sheep farm. And that's obviously also why my passion for agriculture and the people in agriculture is today is actually dictating my career. But small town, small pond in which you were a big fish, and that to a certain extent that defined me in my career. So then I studied at Stellenbosch University after the military service we had to do. Studied agriculture, but with a bursary from the Department of Education. So I had to also go teach. Didn't last long, but at least at an agricultural high school for a while. And then I joined the Agricultural Training Center in agriculture for farm workers, and specifically a skills training center. It's a good foundation for me to start it from, because then I joined the Development Bank of Southern Africa. And the Development Bank, it was small farmer development, or if you want to, emerging farmers. And from there into a large mining house, Gencor, where I was heading up their social investment program and their social engagement. Down back to Cape Town and a couple of other kind of activities or involvements, and then ended up with the Waitrose Foundation. And the Waitrose Foundation I've been for quite some time. A unique model, a wonderful place to be involved with. Waitrose is a retailer in the UK, and what makes them, or you will distinguish them from all the other retailers, is that they sort of have a ring-fenced approach of giving back to the source of the products or the produce that they're importing from South Africa.
Different.
So they import all their fresh produce, and they have 400 at the moment. It's growing all the time and declining, it's depending on the market. They receive the fresh produce they received from a specific producer or farmer determines, according to a certain formula, the amount of money they're giving back to that farm's workers, especially to improve the quality of their lives. And what is unique about it is simply that the workers know they're working for their creches and their schools and their clinics and their educational programs, or whatever it is that we do in those ones. Wonderful. That was a good time. And then retired from that, I started up IDS Africa again, and make it an active entity that we now trying to make a difference.
You say started it up again. So it didn't start last year. You just kind of...
No, a couple of things happened during my career. While I was working for Gencor, the mining house, I also completed a master's in strategic management, but in this field of social engagement of the bigger companies. And I realized that there's a need in industry actually at that stage, because you remember that was just before 94. It was early days. And there was a need to assist companies, businesses, enterprise to move away from this chairman's kitty where they give to the Red Cross and they give to someone just ad hoc as on request, to a more structured strategic program that can align with the core business and that can maybe make sense to the shareholders of the company and eventually have a much bigger impact. So we founded IDS Africa at the time. Two friends of mine, Ronnie and Glover, were still with me, and Tien Slegtan passed away in the meantime, but founded this as almost as a consultancy and to give advice.
Okay.
But it's a side hustle. It was never a full time. Now that I'm at the stage where I can do that, it's really
Your passion is reignited.
now I'm ready.
Now, you have been in a variety of different roles throughout your career, especially in leadership roles. What are some of the most valuable lessons you have learned along the way?
I think a couple of things. The one for me, it's nothing new, but it's to realize that normally you grow from a lower level position, medium level, senior level, eventually into a leadership role. And to realize that when you become the leader of a team, your responsibility is not to do the work anymore. Your responsibility is to manage those who do the work. Fine distinction, nuance, but an important one, because I struggled in the beginning just to get used to the fact that I'm not ultimately responsible for every single thing that's happening.
And that's difficult.
It's hard, especially if you're you're output driven like me a little bit, and you want to see perfect product.
You want to do it yourself.
Now I had exactly, and now I had to suddenly learn I need to invest in the person who's doing it. I can't spend my time on doing it properly. I need to make sure someone else can do it properly. So for me, that was probably one of the most significant things. And I still today, I see people who don't realize that their job is not to get the work done. Their job is to manage the people in such a way, which means motivate. It means a whole lot of things. It means the motivation of the people, the skills levels of the people, the attitude, the acumen. It's all about people management. That's why so many engineers and professional people end up managing people, and then they say, but this is not what I signed up for. I want to design things and I want to do this, that, and the other thing, my profession. But managing people, and none of them are trained how to manage people while they're at universities and technical universities.
Are there any pivotal moments or challenges that you think have helped shape this approach to leadership?
Yeah, I think, what I discovered was that I'm not always right. And that's hard because I have the T-shirt. I've done it. I've been there. So from my experience, my worldview to me is perfect. It's correct. That's what I see is what you get. I've been there. I've seen it. You hear it often. And the reality is that at very best, you only have a 50% chance of being right, even as a leader. And it doesn't change when you become a leader. You can't suddenly know everything. You can't suddenly have the only vision. You can't suddenly... The fact that you're a leader means that you have to have those things, but you have to realize or recognize the fact that you're not the only one doing it. And in my case, I simply say my truth in the world was shaped from my experiences, where I grew up, my values, the way my parents treated me, my falling down, my getting up or not, my experience of success and failure. That is what formed my truth. Yours is different. You fell in different places. You had different parents. You had different values, perhaps. You had many different experiences that I never had. How can I convince you as a leader? You've got to follow me. Well, I know you don't believe.
And a lot of leaders don't see it that way.
They don't. And in any argument, even at home with your family members, and if you have an argument, what are we trying to do? When you and I differ, I try and convince you that you're wrong and I'm right. It's basics. But now your experience was totally different. You see things that I don't even know exist, although I'm the leader. And the problem in leadership is when you start relying on yourself only, you're doomed to fail. And that is for me the biggest turning point and I can almost divide my career in two halves as far as that is concerned. When that penny dropped, I suddenly became less arrogant, less demanding, less entitled, and that is what is needed to be a good leader. You need to do that and to understand leadership.
And now you are part of the leadership of IDS Africa.
Yeah.
And IDS Africa has got quite a unique approach to things like training, especially in workforce development.
Yeah.
Can you share some of the history of the company and its core missions?
Yeah. As I said just now, the IDS Africa was initially designed as a consultancy. It's to give advice. But then as we moved on, we realized that at the end of the day, there are so many people with so many unique and special and wonderful programs to change our society to a better society. When we say a better society, you and I may differ about that, but basically it's a society that is based on certain principles or values that we more or less all agree with. And yet, in spite of all that, thousands of things that have happened, we live in a society that's even worse than what it was last year and the year before and the year. It's getting worse every year in terms of crime and level of just principles that we live by. So we decided in a way that we have to change that. And rather than training people, and I have to admit, I'm one of those that I'm slightly skeptical about training. You can train 1,000 or 1,000,000 unemployed people. They still don't have jobs. Makes no difference. So training without a follow through on what happens to that person to make that person be, let's say, in a better space than what he was before. There's no growth and it's no development. It's very good for the employer if it is an employed person. Because, of course, the skill is important. So training is not wrong. It's the right thing to do, especially for employed people. But unemployed people. So what makes our approach different is that we believe it is not what we do that is going to make the difference. It is how we do it. It's not what a manager does that changes his workers. It is how he does it. Because the one truth is, I cannot change someone else. Nobody can change. I can't change you. I can't change my wife. When I was younger, I thought sometimes that would be a nice thing to do. But I can't change my son. That teenager who is, so hard-headed, and I can't change him. The entitled youth that we have nowadays. Everybody wants the house. My children want the prosperity, if you want, my car, my house, my whatever, that I've, sort of put together and worked for very hard over 40 years. They want it now. They want the same car. They want it because it's a sort of a quick generation and it's a sort of a quick fix generation. And everybody is entitled to things. The point is, I can't change that. I can only assist you in changing your own mind and get to the point where you want to change something that you're doing at the moment or not doing at the moment. And that's our approach. Our approach is not to teach people the skills. Or we do give tools, but I can give you 5 different tools to loosen a nut. I can give you a shifting spanner. I can give you a normal spanner. I can give you a pair of pliers. I can give you many things. The fact is,
tool works for you?
I need to convince you that you must pick the best tool in that box, the most applicable tool in that box, or what you have, or what you're comfortable using. Maybe totally different from mine or his or hers. To use that and then to decide, I'm going to work over time in being the best possible me I can be. Then follows a whole lot of things. Our approach is simple. We say the wellness of people determines their availability to be motivated and to feel motivated. And which in most cases, you don't need someone to motivate you. If you have a specific goal, the moment you achieve that goal, you feel motivated. A young man training for a 4-minute mile in the old days, he's training 4 o'clock in the morning and he takes his own time and he realizes, wow, I hit it today, 4 minutes. And he's overjoyed with that sort of an achievement that he just had. And there's no audience, no crowd, no manager, no father, no mother. Just I feel. That is what motivates him to get up tomorrow morning and try and do it again or try and do better. Now, the same here. I'm trying to teach management staff at the moment, managers, junior managers, say even supervisor level, to say that what we're doing is we don't do it for people, we don't give them recipes. If their social wellness is of such that they don't have a reason to be unhappy, we motivate. If we motivate, we increase productivity. If we increase productivity, we increase sustainability. If we increase sustainability, we increase profitability. So right, here we are. You just work here on how to make people want to be motivated, to become motivated, want to perform the best of their ability. So our input is almost an emotional, mental kind of input rather than a skills input like most people do.
And is that how you tailor your programs to meet the specific needs of the different businesses?
Yeah. And if you had to ask me, what is our specific methodology of training, which you will find I will answer to you, there's actually no one specific. It is in general experiential in the sense that we believe if people don't experience what they've learned, it is in and out. Majority of people who attend workshops and conferences, if you get them tomorrow morning behind their desk or in the workplace, in the workshop where they work, and you ask them anything they heard yesterday, they might remember a joke that the guy told, because that's normally the first thing that gets stuck. But that's about all, because life goes on. Life is happening to me today. Yesterday was a nice break, but a nice insights, and I enjoyed the guy, and he was, or the presenter. So we don't have a specific. We mold our programs according to the needs of the client. And it sometimes varies in terms of what methodologies and what programs we use to do that.
We're going to hop right back into Kobus's incredible journey in just a second. But first, did you know that Kobus's work with IDS Africa aligns closely with what we do here at Training Portal? Together, we're redefining how businesses approach training and workforce performance. Whether you're looking to upskill your team, improve productivity, or create a more engaging workforce, Training Portal partners with leaders like Kobus to deliver innovative, result-driven training solutions. So if you're ready to see the synergy between innovative training and measurable success, visit trainingportal.co.za. Together with experts like Kobus, we're reshaping the future of workforce development, one business at a time. Now let's get back to Kobus and hear more about how practical leadership and training transforms organizations. We make use of a very similar methodology at Training Portal when it comes to tailoring our programs. And you just get the best results that way.
Yeah.
So you focus quite a lot on worker performance rather than cost. And this is quite a fresh and new perspective in this field.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on why this approach is so effective and how it differentiates IDS Africa from other companies on the market?
Yeah, it's actually based on the same logic we just had now about investing in their own mindset or the acumen of the person rather than on what he does, or the skills levels. Because skills you can teach anybody. I mean, I can milk a cow. You can't, or maybe, sorry, I should have asked this, but I can teach you to do that. It's a skill. It is possible. Not as good as I am, but good enough. But in our sort of approach, we feel the highest operational cost component of any business, in South Africa at least at the moment. AI will change that. Technology is changing that. But you probably notice that I'm focusing primarily on the agricultural sector because that's the one where I really enjoy it. And at the moment in my life, I want to enjoy what I do. So the agricultural sector, it's not there yet. It's all people based. And the reality is that the highest cost of all the different cost factors in operating of an agribusiness is people. And yet it's we service our tractors every so now and then because it needs to be serviced. There's a little thingy that says, you must service me. But we do nothing about it. We teach people more skills. And it's wonderful. We have a training record and everybody is happy because your BE scorecard is being ticked off and the reality is it's about the maintenance of people. We don't give any, and it's the highest cost. So where is most money lost? It's in the people. That's what I'm saying is Don't worry about cutting cost. Rather take people and make them more effective and more efficient in what they do. Increase their productivity. It will cost you nothing. A couple of cents to get training portal or someone to give them insight. Thereafter, it's a reduction in your cost because of an increase in your productivity, and that is our focus. Our focus is not to say cut people or employ less people or train more qualified people. I say just get people to do the best they can, and your cost factor will take care of itself. Slightly oversimplified, I know, but for lack of time.
No, but I love that you said that you don't measure it by means of like a checklist, because training should not be done that way. But how do you then determine the success of your training? Yeah. What feedback or results do you typically look for from clients?
Yeah, we have sort of two official ones, and a third one was you always need to keep your client happy. And in my case, the client always is the employer of the people that we're dealing with, whether it's the management or whatever. He might also be part of the beneficiaries from the program, but he's still my primary client. So it is important for me to make sure that my client is happy, because if he isn't, obviously it's going to remove me from where I can make an impact. But the two things that we do measure officially is, because I'm working with management and how to manage people, I do an assessment 6 months after training. I do an assessment amongst the employees, the subordinates of the people I trained.
Okay.
Did something change? What changed? How did it change? And I can't prepare those guys for the answers, because I'm not going to ask them, what did I learn or teach this guy, or what did that guy learn in my program? I'm going to ask them, how did your life change? Because ultimately my purpose with this program is to improve the quality of life of the people, or the livelihood of the people who work in a business or on a farm. And from that angle, they are I almost say the best thermometer to use is the one employees themselves. The other one is where we do have a follow-up session with all those who were in the training, who participated in the training, the trainees, about 6 months later, and we ask them about specific things about how they changed that and how did they approach that, and they, from the answers, you can see whether there's any difference. We have a similar thing when we start the program. I have a questionnaire that I ask people to say, these two guys are quarreling, they're in your team, how do you deal with that? And they write a little answer for me. And then when we're done with the program, I ask them the same questions again. And I say, do you still do it that way, or do you do it, how would you do it now? Because I gave him tools to do that. So it's a continuous kind of assessment. And bottom line for me, the most valuable one is the one where did anything change for the workers at the end of the day, because I want to improve their quality. And it starts with their happiness. If they're dissatisfied about housing, they don't focus on work.
What if after the 6 months you find that it might not have been successful? What happens in that case?
It happens. And quite frankly, I sometimes can predict when it's going to happen. Because you remember, when you're working with a group of 10 or 15 or even 20 people, when you work with those people, it's over a period of 2 or 3 days. And remember, it's experiential training. So we do go out, we do physically do certain practical things. Then you can already see who is the person who resists. Often it has to do with the person's own approach to workers and or beliefs and or experience, his truth or her truth. It has to do with that. That's why I start programs. And that's always a sort of let's get quiet and peaceful and, relax, and let us look inward. And there's a whole session, almost half a day session of analyzing, where am I? Where do I come from? Remember when you and I were born, the day we were born, we were exactly the same. Not physically and not DNA-wise. But I had no sins, you had no sins. I did nothing wrong, you have done nothing. You have done nothing wrong. You've done nothing good. You have not been assessed by the world, and the world has not decided what's your label. Nor have I. But then life happens. And what happens to us, that makes us what we are today. And it's that you need to know and understand, honestly. Not what you tell me, because you will never tell me about that time whatever happened to you that's wrong. You can't show the whole world all your weaknesses. But if you don't know your weaknesses, you're in trouble, because that's when you start projecting. And that's when I can tell you now, there are people who do not respond to our input. And what I do for my client is I go back and I say, even after the first session, I say, these guys are the guys that I think we need to work with again. And then start a different angle and try and first get them to find their own feet in their own comfortability, in their own comfort, in their own self-worth. And it's not image, it's self-worth. What's your value?
Before we continue with the rest of the interview, here's a quick look at how Training Portal empowers individuals and businesses through skills development. At Training Portal, we are proud to be a leader in skills development consulting and a multi-accredited training academy, committed to solving your unique challenges through innovative and cost-effective solutions. Whether you are looking to enhance your team's skills, comply with industry regulations, or maximize your BEE scores, our extensive range of over 300 short courses and more than 30 fully accredited qualifications cover all your needs. From agriculture to information technology, our CETA and QCTO accredited qualifications are designed to provide comprehensive learning experiences. We tailor our training programs to fit your specific requirements, ensuring maximum benefits within your available resources. Our innovative learning platform allows for flexible, self-paced study, available both on-site at your premises and through our Training Portal campuses all across South Africa. With Training Portal, you achieve more than your training outcomes. You gain a partner who stands by you from the initial consultation through to the continuous management of your training program. Now let's get back into the episode. Can you share any success stories or case studies that help illustrate this kind of transformation that IDS Africa is making and can achieve?
Yeah, I've seen several really good. We consulted still when we were still sort of an advising capacity, where the people involved would come back to you and tell you how that changed their lives and how they. I wouldn't say that's extraordinary, because a good program should do that to whoever you deal with, and your trainees or your beneficiaries should respond to that in that way. But since I've started now working full time in the foundation, it's the majority of what I get back is a little bit too soon to say it's going to be sustainable, it's going to last. And that is, for me, it's important, because I don't want the sort of things that I remember today. Monday is still easy to remember Sunday's sermon. But by Wednesday, a lot of people make you very angry, and then all that thing about love your neighbor, it doesn't work here. So I'm hesitant to say, but I have especially one young man. I used to call him Cowboy, but that's for a different reason. If I say now why, then you will maybe be able to identify him. But Cowboy was a general farm worker. And we started with very basic programs about his own personal commitment and his own conviction, and then worked into ownership for what you do in life. And not only work, but ownership for being a parent, for being a husband, for being a wife, for being a father, mother, whatever. And take ownership for that, which doesn't mean, like most people would like to interpret it, that as now I can make all the calls. Mm-hmm. No, it's take the full responsibility. And he responded extremely well. And he would phone and he would say, they've now told me that we has done this wrong, and I don't know where to go with this. And I sort of mentored him over a couple of months. And today he's a production manager on a farm. It's about 3 years since he started as a general worker, and I'm telling you, there's a lot of steps in between before you can become a production managers. Usually are people who have some formal education or qualification to do that, and he is doing extremely well. I mean, his owner will not let him go before he dies, that's for sure. So it's a person who grabbed the opportunity and really responded to that. And not all do that, but I've seen a lot of potential for that in the last couple of months since I've been working with this.
So it would be interesting to see where those individuals are in the next couple of months.
Yeah, and we can, I hope at least you and I can talk about that again within the training portal.
No, absolutely. What trends or changes do you see happening in the workforce and in training and development. And how is IDS Africa adapting to those shifts that we see coming on the horizon?
And that is it's a good question, simply because our world is changing so fast. It was the Stone Age took a million years, and then the Industrial Ages took hundreds of years, thousands of years, and the technology. 30 years ago we didn't have a cell phone.
I know.
And every single person that you see in the street today, from the smallest babies, have cell phones. And the AI era is going to be tens of years, not even hundreds of years. It's going to be very, very quick. And we see it already, cars driving themselves and what. So I think the biggest change in industry that will have an effect on people comes from technology or related sort of areas. And as a result of that, we need to adjust. But mainly at this stage, at least, I don't think within my lifetime at least, which is not particularly long anymore, but I don't think the technology will nullify the need for training or developing people, because people are still core. And someone from UCT the other day said, actually, we're at a crossroad where we will decide. We'll have to decide, do we want to hand over all the decision-making in this world to a system with no values and no ethics, or do we want to stay in control? And that decision is not too far.
That's quite the decision to make.
And if we manage to stay in control, then ethics and values can be part of it. But the AI doesn't have that kind of an emotional or spiritual thing. So for me, the changes are happening in that space. So for us, it's a matter of trying to stay relevant to what the role of people are. If the role of people would change, it might be different. So we focus on our delivery and try and keep up with that. And that's why I'm excited about the sort of cooperation with Training Portal, because there immediately it gives me a platform. It gives me I could almost say a domain within which we can grow and do what is required to be effective and be efficient and deliver.
No, absolutely.
And there are a couple of challenges, because, you remember I keep on saying experiential training, and I keep on saying while we're talking, we go out to where a team is working, and I would explain to them what I mean by setting their goals in such a way that they can actually measure it rather than you yourself, and what. All of that is sort of requiring for you to be there, but it's possible. And that, you guys taught me it's possible. And now is to catch up with what is possible at the moment and available for us to have a bigger footprint and a bigger impact. Content-wise, we've always been flexible and dynamic. We're growing. If someone needs something, we do it. And if someone comes to me and say, man, just help me because my own children don't want to go to school anymore, I even do that.
So what's next for IDS Africa? What exciting developments and projects are in the future?
I was fortunate enough that one of and it's not again the agricultural sector. Remember, it's my playing field, which I love. But one of the larger export companies, they have a huge footprint, a number of farms, a number of people, and so they approach me and they ask for, first of all, let's strategize, which I love because that's where you can be innovative and depending on what the culture of the company is, you can form and shape things to work for them. And that'll probably start soon. And for me, that's big because it would be a rather sort of significant output if we succeed. Challenge is there, and so that is one. And then the other one is that I find that although we said that we would like to focus on the not only the agricultural sector, primarily on the empowerment of the people with the aim or the view on helping them to reach their full potential and improve their livelihood or the quality of their lives. I find more and more requests for mentoring and coaching management to let that happen rather than me training and teaching. And I've done now I have one particular fairly prominent business that just approached me and I'm excited about that because it's for me slightly different. It means hands-on. It means you have to stay with that particular person and make sure that he makes or she makes the right decisions. But yeah, so mentoring, coaching, together with the training, let's say technical development, and in terms, especially our methodologies and our delivery. I think that's the first couple of months to a year.
That's quite exciting. I can't wait to hear what new success stories we're going to have, other than just like Cowboy, for example. But Kobus, I want to thank you so much for joining us for this chat. It's always lovely to sit down with you, and I hope we can bring you on again soon.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next time on the Training Portal podcast.
Experience from Clark's Up Sea Scouts and with mates down in Langebaan and things like that. So we went down to Durban, and then I sourced a boat, and so we prepped it. And we carried on prepping it and carried on prepping it and carried on prepping it. And eventually we spoke to one guy, and he said, out of everybody that he's seen coming down to do the same thing, he said, we probably the guys that has got to the furthest, and he's actually going to do it. Because there's a lot of people that have ideas,
but it never comes to fruition.
Yeah. And then I like to him, no, Rob, actually we're not ready yet. We must do this. And then he says, you'll never be ready for anything. You just sometimes have to go and do it. And he says, along the way, you will then you'll learn. Well, obviously you have to learn how to do the first storm, but then you'd finish the boat, you would do that, but you have to set sail. And that was quite an important lesson to learn, because at the end of the day, you can say a lot of things, but sometimes you have to go.